You stand on the precipice of a truth too dangerous for most to even whisper. Forget what you think you know. Forget the comforting lies spun by the Jedi, the brutal narratives enforced by the Sith. What if I told you the galaxy's history, as you understand it, is a carefully constructed illusion? An echo of a deeper, far more terrifying reality. Imagine, if you will, a void. Ancient beyond comprehension, pulsating not with darkness or light, but with something as other. Something that predates the very concepts of Jedi and Sith, before the Force was categorized, before the Force itself was understood as a dichotomy. A place where the primal energies of creation and destruction intertwined, raw and untamed. This isn't some forgotten temple on a dusty backwater world. This is a place that was erased. Not merely hidden, but meticulously scrubbed from every holocron, every datapod, every memory within the living Force itself. The Jedi, in their fervent pursuit of balance, became architects of suppression, burying anything that threatened their rigid ideology. The Sith, in their quest for ultimate power, twisted and corrupted what little they found, then buried the rest to ensure their dominion. But some things, my friend, refuse to stay buried, like the lingering phantom limb of a severed arm. The whispers of this primal void still resonate for those with the ears to hear. It's a truth so profound, so devastating, that its mere existence threatens to unravel the fabric of the Force as we perceive it. This isn't just about forbidden powers. It's about forbidden truths. The truth that the Force is not a simple light and dark, but an infinitely complex tapestry woven with threads the modern Jedi and Sith can't even comprehend. And it is within these forbidden threads that Anakin Skywalker's true potential and the galaxy's darkest secrets lie. They tell you of the chosen one, of a prophecy fulfilled, of a hero who brought balance to the Force. A grand narrative, isn't it? A tidy bow on a galaxy of chaos. But what if I told you the balance they speak of is a meticulously crafted cage, a gilded prison for truths the Jedi Council deemed too dangerous to exist? What if the real prophecy, the true destiny of the Chosen One, was never about light vanquishing dark, but about something far more profound, far more terrifying? Imagine, if you can, a chamber. Not on Coruscant, not even on Tython, but beneath the very bedrock of a forgotten world, bathed in a sickly green glow, pulsating with an energy that makes the air itself crackle with ancient malevolence. This isn't a Sith vault, nor a Jedi library. It's a forgotten crucible, where the primal, unvarnished aspects of the Force were once studied, not with reverence, but with a terrifying, clinical curiosity. Here, secrets were forged that could shatter the very concepts of life and death, of time and space. And these secrets, my friends, were not merely sealed away. They were erased from the collective consciousness of the Force itself. A memory wipe on a galactic scale, orchestrated by those who feared its power more than they desired its understanding. Think of Anakin Skywalker, a nexus of the Force, a being born of pure midi-chlorian potential. The Jedi saw him as a tool, a means to an end, a weapon against the encroaching darkness. They sought to temper his raw power, to funnel it into their narrow, dogmatic channels. But what if Anakin, in his journey through the very depths of despair and rebirth, had glimpsed these forbidden truths? What if, as he lay dying on the second Death Star, he didn't just find peace, but remembered everything? Not just his life as Anakin, then Vader, then Anakin once more, but the echoes of a history erased, the phantom knowledge of abilities the Jedi condemned as unnatural. The Force, they say, flows through all living things. But there are currents within it that whisper of a reality beyond their limited understanding. Currents that can reshape flesh, defy time, and even manipulate the very essence of consciousness. These are not dark side powers as you know them. They are something far older, far more fundamental. They are the techniques of beings who understood the Force not as a servant, but as a boundless, unyielding ocean, capable of both creation and absolute annihilation. The Jedi suppressed this knowledge, branded it heretical, because it threatened their carefully constructed order. The Sith merely twisted it, mistaking control for true mastery. But somewhere, etched into the very fabric of existence, are the blueprints of powers that can unravel reality itself. And if Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, had remembered those blueprints, the galaxy would never be the same. The notion of balance would crumble, revealing a far more volatile, unpredictable truth. The Jedi preached non-attachment, a detached serenity that became a shield against profound understanding. They feared the chaos of emotion, the destructive potential of true passion. But what if that fear wasn't just about safeguarding the individual, but about maintaining their own fragile illusion of control over the Force itself? For centuries, they pruned and cultivated the Force, shaping it into a domesticated garden, carefully removing any wild, untamed growth that threatened their neat rows of light and shadow. But the Force, in its rawest form, is a jungle teeming with life and death and secrets that defy simplistic categorization. Imagine an ancient Jedi Master, long before the Old Republic, who dared to delve into the very nature of existence and non-existence, pushing beyond the conventional understanding of life after death. They didn't just become one with the Force. They transcended it, becoming something else more. A conscious nexus, capable of interacting with the living and the dead, not as a whisper from the netherworld, but as a tangible, undeniable presence. This isn't a Force ghost. This is a deliberate, conscious manipulation of the spiritual plane. A technique so potent, it was deemed an abomination by future generations, a blasphemy against the natural order. But what if this master, in their pursuit of ultimate understanding, discovered a way to anchor their consciousness to the material plane, not as a spectral echo, but as a fully aware, embodied being, resurrected not by cloning or Sith sorcery, but by pure force will. Anakin Skywalker, in his final moments, faced the ultimate surrender. He shed the mantle of Vader, embraced his son, and found a fleeting peace. But what if that peace was merely a doorway, a threshold to a deeper, more profound awakening? What if, as his physical form withered, his mind, still sharp with the memories of a lifetime, grasped the forgotten threads of existence and non-existence? The Jedi taught that death was the final journey, a return to the cosmic flow. But what if death, for a being of Anakin's unparalleled potential, was merely another state of being? A temporary separation that could be bridged, even reversed, through a forgotten discipline. This isn't about cheating death, but about understanding its true nature, about recognizing that the veil between life and what lies beyond is far thinner than the Jedi ever admitted. Think of the psychological impact. A man reborn not as a blank slate, but with the full, crushing weight of his past. The horror of his deeds as Vader, the agony of his losses, the burning regret of his failures, all of it raw, immediate, vivid. And yet, alongside it, the clarity, the cold, hard wisdom forged in the fires of suffering. This isn't redemption in the traditional sense. It's a terrifying, beautiful, and utterly overwhelming second chance. A chance to wield knowledge that could reshape the galaxy, not just through power, but through an understanding that transcends the simplistic narratives of good and evil. The Jedi archives, they claim, hold the sum of all their knowledge, a repository of wisdom and history. A comforting thought, isn't it? But what if the deepest, most profound truths, the ones that could shatter the very foundations of their order, were never stored within those hallowed halls? What if they were, instead, etched into the living rock of forgotten worlds, preserved in the petrified remains of beings who communed with the Force on a level beyond our comprehension? Imagine a desolate moon, shrouded in perpetual storms, its surface scarred by ancient cataclysms, and beneath its cracked crust, a vast, crystalline labyrinth, not built, but grown. A living structure, pulsating with a forgotten resonance, a library of consciousness encoded into the very minerals of the planet. This isn't technology, it's a form of organic data storage, a conduit to the minds of beings who existed before the first Jedi temple was ever conceived. Beings who understood the Force as a living, evolving entity, not a static energy field to be mastered. And within this labyrinth lie the records of galactic events that defy the official histories. Conspiracies so vast they make Palpatine's machinations look like child's play. These aren't just historical records. They're memories. The collective consciousness of entire civilizations, echoing through time, revealing the true nature of power, of empire, of the endless cycle of rise and fall. The Jedi purged this knowledge, not because it was inherently dark, but because it exposed the fragility of their own dogmas, the limitations of their own understanding. It revealed that their balance was merely a convenient equilibrium, easily shattered by forces they refused to acknowledge. And the Sith, in their crude pursuit of dominance, merely sought to exploit what little they could glean, never truly understanding the profound nature of what they toyed with. But what if Anakin, in his reborn state, found himself drawn to such a place? What if the echoes of these forgotten minds resonated with his own reawakened consciousness, revealing not just events, but the very techniques used by these ancient beings? Techniques to manipulate the Force on a molecular level, to bend reality, to unravel the illusions of time and space. Imagine the sheer psychological burden of such knowledge. Not just knowing history, but feeling it, experiencing the agony and ecstasy of countless lives, witnessing betrayals that transcend millennia. This isn't just information, it's an immersive, overwhelming truth that would reshape anyone's perception of reality. If Anakin Skywalker, reborn with all his memories, were to access this memory planet, he wouldn't just be the chosen one, he'd be something entirely new. A living bridge between erased history and a terrifying future. His understanding of the Force, and indeed of the galaxy itself, would become something utterly alien to both Jedi and Sith. He would see beyond their petty squabbles, their limited perspectives, and understand the true, terrifying scale of the cosmic game being played. The galaxy, as you know it, is a small stage for a much larger drama. The Jedi speak of the living Force, a vague concept often used to dismiss anything that doesn't fit their codified understanding. But what if the living Force holds secrets far more tangible, far more terrifying than they ever dared to acknowledge? What if there are biological entities, sentient beings, who are not merely connected to the Force, but are, in essence, living conduits, walking repositories of its raw, untamed power? Imagine a planet, not of sprawling cities or ancient ruins, but of colossal, organic structures, pulsating with an internal light. A world where the very flora and fauna are attuned to the deepest currents of the Force, where the ecosystem itself acts as a living archive, a breathing, thinking holocron. This isn't just about sensitive plants or Force-attuned animals. These are entities, beings of pure Force energy given corporeal form, predating the rise of sentience in the galaxy as we know it. Beings that possess an innate understanding of Force abilities that would be deemed impossible, even blasphemous, by modern Force sensitives. They are the true masters of the Force, not through study or philosophy, but through sheer, inherent existence. And among them, there are certain individuals, perhaps even a forgotten lineage, who possess the ability to manipulate the very essence of midi-chlorians, to create a life, or to snuff it out, not through some dark ritual, but through a direct communion with the Force's primal, generative power. This isn't cloning. This is something far more profound, far more terrifying in its implications. It's the ability to shape the Force itself, to weave it into new forms, to give it consciousness. The Jedi, in their fear of unchecked power, condemned such abilities as the path to the dark side, not because they were inherently evil, but because they bypassed their rigid training and their limited comprehension. The Sith, blinded by their greed for power, only ever glimpsed fragments of this truth, always seeking to overtake rather than to understand. But what if Anakin Skywalker, reborn with every memory, every scar, every painful lesson, was drawn to such a place, not by prophecy, but by a primal resonance within his own being? What if the staggering midi-chlorian count that made him the chosen one wasn't just a number, but a dormant key to this ancient, organic knowledge? Imagine him communing with these living conduits, not as a student, but as an echo of their own fundamental nature. He wouldn't just learn new powers, he would remember them, unlocking abilities that had been dormant within his own genetic code, passed down through the very fabric of the Force. The ability to heal not just flesh, but the very wounds of the spirit. The ability to manipulate energy on a scale that could reshape landscapes. The ability to perceive the future not as fleeting visions, but as a dynamic tapestry of probabilities, allowing him to weave his own destiny with terrifying precision. This is the truth the galaxy was never meant to remember, a truth that would expose the Jedi's limitations and the Sith's folly. If Anakin Skywalker truly grasped these powers, he would not be a Jedi or a Sith. He would be something entirely new, a force of nature unto himself, a being capable of truly balancing the Force, not through an artificial equilibrium, but by embracing its full, untamed, terrifying potential. The cosmic force, they preach, is the grand tapestry, the guiding hand, the benevolent will of the universe. A comforting thought, isn't it? A divine order that ensures justice and balance. But what if that grand tapestry is frayed, worn thin by the machinations of beings far older, far more powerful, and far more manipulative than any Sith Lord or Jedi Master? What if the very concept of destiny is merely a carefully constructed illusion, a leash for those with too much power, too much potential? Imagine a council, not of flesh and blood, but of pure energy, entities that exist beyond the physical plane, yet exert their influence upon it. They are the true puppeteers, the silent architects of galactic history, pulling strings from the shadows, ensuring that events unfold according to their ancient, inscrutable agenda. They are not Jedi nor Sith, but something entirely other than. They exist in the spaces between realities, glimpsing the myriad possibilities of the future, then subtly nudging events to achieve their desired outcome. And their desired outcome might not be balance, as we understand it, but something far more complex, far more chilling. This isn't about mere foresight. It's about the conscious manipulation of timelines, the subtle redirection of destiny itself. They might create chosen ones, not for galactic salvation, but as instruments for their own unknown purposes. They might engineer conflicts, foster empires, or orchestrate collapses, all to serve an agenda that transcends the petty squabbles of mortals. The Jedi, in their arrogance, believed themselves to be the guardians of destiny. The Sith, in their lust for power, believed they could defy it. Both, ultimately, were pawns in a much larger game. But what if Anakin Skywalker, reborn with the full weight of his past and the terrifying clarity of his second chance, began to perceive these strings? What if, in his heightened state of awareness, he glimpsed the true nature of these cosmic manipulators, these unseen architects of fate? Imagine the psychological shattering. To realize that your entire life, your struggles, your triumphs, your tragic fall, were all part of a grand design orchestrated by unseen forces. The anger, the betrayal, the crushing weight of cosmic disillusionment. And yet, perhaps, a glimmer of defiance. A new purpose, not to restore balance, but to shatter the very notion of controlled destiny. To break free from the puppet show. If Anakin, the chosen one, saw beyond the veil of preordained fate, he would no longer be a pawn. He would become a wild card, a variable in a cosmic equation that these ancient beings could not control. He would become a rogue element, capable of rewriting the script, of forging a new destiny not just for himself, but for the entire galaxy. This is the ultimate conspiracy, the hidden truth behind the hidden truths. A truth that would reveal the Force itself as a tool, a weapon, in the hands of entities beyond our comprehension. If you're still with me, if you feel the tremors of this truth resonating within you, then balance is a lie. Say it. Whisper it. Let it sink into your very being. The Jedi Code, a pillar of their order, a guide for countless generations. There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion. There is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. Beautiful, isn't it? Platitudes designed to bring comfort, to impose order. But what if these very tenets were not born of enlightenment, but of fear? Fear of the true nature of emotion, of knowledge unbridled, of passion unleashed, of chaos uncontained, and most terrifyingly, of death not as an end, but as a transition. Imagine a schism not just between Jedi and Sith, but within the very heart of the ancient Jedi Order itself. A hidden conflict long before the Rusan Reformation, perhaps even before the 100-year darkness. A group of Force sensitives who rejected the burgeoning dogma of emotional suppression, who sought to understand the Force not through denial, but through raw, uninhibited experience. They embraced passion, not as a path to darkness, but as a wellspring of power, a conduit to the Force's wildest currents. They explored the chaotic, unpredictable aspects of the Force, seeing harmony not in its absence, but in its masterful direction. They were deemed heretics, not because they embraced the dark side, but because they embraced everything. They understood that true balance was not about suppression, but about integration. They sought to master the Force, not by restricting its flow, but by opening themselves to its full, terrifying, beautiful spectrum. And these practitioners, in their daring exploration, discovered rituals, not of sacrifice or shadow, but of pure, concentrated will, capable of reshaping physical form, altering perception, and even forging bonds with the Force that transcended the limitations of individual consciousness. These were not forbidden. In the traditional sense, they were simply unthinkable to a nascent Jedi order terrified of its own raw power. They were forgotten not through destruction, but through deliberate, systemic erasure, their very existence expunged from the archives, their teachings branded as dangerous myths. But what if Anakin Skywalker, reborn and burdened with the weight of his past and the horrifying clarity of his second chance, found the echoes of these lost teachings? What if his inherent passion, the very thing the Jedi sought to suppress, became his greatest asset in unlocking these forgotten secrets? Imagine him, no longer bound by the rigid doctrines, no longer fearing the darkness within, but embracing it, not to fall, but to integrate. He wouldn't just be powerful, he would be a living embodiment of true Force balance, a walking paradox that would shatter the preconceived notions of both Jedi and Sith. His mastery would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, because it would be built not on denial, but on a terrifying, profound acceptance of all that the Force is and all that he himself is. This is the forbidden path, the one that leads not to light or dark, but to a terrifying, absolute truth. If Anakin Skywalker truly saw beyond the veil, if he unlocked these ancient, forgotten rituals, he would become the true chosen one, not as a destroyer of the Sith, but as a living testament to a Force far grander, far more dangerous than anyone ever imagined. If you've felt the truth in these words, if your perception of the Force is irrevocably altered, then repeat after me. Fex I see beyond the veil, let it resonate. The end of all things, the grand finale. The final battle between light and dark that will determine the fate of the galaxy. It's a compelling narrative, isn't it? A dramatic climax that neatly wraps up millennia of conflict. But what if the end is not an ending at all, but merely a cyclical recurrence? A predetermined reset button pressed by unseen forces, designed to perpetuate a hidden power dynamic. What if the true, final battle is not between armies, or even philosophies, but within the very essence of the Force itself? A struggle for ultimate definition, for ultimate control over reality. Imagine a hidden mechanism, an ancient, cosmic clockwork, meticulously designed to trigger cataclysmic events at predetermined intervals. Not random acts of chaos, but engineered crises. The rise of a powerful Sith Lord, the near annihilation of the Jedi, the emergence of a tyrannical empire, all designed to prune the galaxy, to reset its trajectory, to maintain a specific, hidden agenda. This isn't just about prophecies, it's about programmed destinies, about an inherent bias within the Force itself, manipulated by entities who understand its fundamental laws on a level we cannot fathom. They ensure that the cycle of conflict continues, that neither light nor dark truly gains absolute dominion, because true, unbridled mastery by any single entity would disrupt their own carefully constructed equilibrium. The Jedi, unknowingly, served as one half of this mechanism. The Sith, in their ambition, served the other. Both were pawns in a cosmic game of control, never truly understanding the larger chessboard. But what if Anakin Skywalker, reborn with the clarity of hindsight and the burden of shattered illusions, glimpsed this ultimate truth? What if he saw the strings connecting every chosen one, every prophecy, every grand galactic conflict to this ancient, self-serving mechanism? Imagine the psychological revelation. The weight of realizing that his entire existence, his pivotal role in galactic history, was merely a programmed event, a dramatic spectacle designed by entities who saw him not as a hero, but as a tool. The raw, visceral rage, the profound sense of betrayal that would erupt from such a revelation would be unlike anything he had ever felt, even as Vader. And yet, within that rage, a burning clarity, a true purpose. Not to fulfill a prophecy, but to shatter it. His aim would not be to restore balance, or to destroy the Sith, or even to save the galaxy in the traditional sense. His purpose would be to dismantle the cosmic clockwork itself, to break the endless cycle of manipulated destiny, to unleash the Force from its predetermined chains, allowing it to evolve freely, without the influence of these unseen architects. This would be the true final battle, a conflict not with lightsabers and Force lightning, but with the very fabric of causality, with the fundamental laws of the Force as they have been understood and enforced for millennia. If Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one, were to remember everything, to see beyond the veil of programmed destiny, he would become the ultimate rogue element, a force of liberation that would truly reshape the galaxy, not by leading it, but by freeing it from the invisible bonds of its own manipulated history. The galaxy would never be the same. Once you hear this truth, my friend, you can never unhear it. And the Force, you will realize, is far more terrifying, far more beautiful, and far more unknowable than you were ever taught. The choice, now, is yours: remain in the comfortable lie, or embrace the terrifying truth.